A very good morning, everybody, and welcome to a sunny, although a little blustery, Portimao Algarve International Circuit for the season finale of the European scene within the ACO rules set. Three different race championships to be dealt with through the course of the next 2 days, and remember, slightly unconventional timetabling of this weekend as well. That's why we're bringing you the first of a couple of Ligier European Series races which form their final heat of the season on a Friday rather than the usual Saturday. That means the Michelin Le Mans Cup race is again Saturday. It normally is, but it's Saturday morning rather than Saturday evening, followed a couple of hours later for a 2:30 start with the European Le Mans Series finale Saturday as well. But before we get ahead of ourselves, two key races for the individual categories within the Ligier European Series to determine champions for 2024. This will be race one then for the JS2Rs and the JS P4s. They qualified yesterday, and Mexican driver Ian Aguilera, who is eager for points in the championship, starting from pole position ahead of two Team Virage cars. Brendan McCochen for the 32 Team Virage crew ahead of Geronimo Berrio, just out of the championship, but still gunning for second within it. Then we've got the ANS Motorsport car of Ico Segre. He is still just about capable of leapfrogging the three drivers ahead of him in the championship. Then Chutung Ching for the Monza Garage crew. Hayden Chance for Team Virage with a bit of work to do. Championship leader Hayden Chance sharing with Theo Mercouris, but starting from 6th ahead of Ben Casely's Nielsen Racing car number 4, 7th. Then Andre Vieira for ASM Motorsport, LR Motorsports, Manuel Quandam-Carlo. Then it's Yuki Tanaka, who returns, having sat out the Mugello round for Pegasus Racing, and M Racing's Jacques Nicolet. Matteo Pianazzola's taken pole position for the 60 Iron Lynx by LR Motorsport crew in the JS2Rs, ahead of August Thurbo in the Le Douce Arb entry. Marta Garcia returning to the championship as well for Iron Dames. Paul Trajani and Cindy Goudet next for ANS and M Racing. The second Le Douce Arb car of Antoine Lupescu, and then it's Julien Schell and Louis Stern. They're all pretty much the championship contenders at the tail end of JS2R, so we will have to keep our eyes on those lower positions and see whether they are able to seal a championship in a slightly unconventional place, i.e. 6th, 7th or 8th place. Rushing through the grid, I've not had a chance to tell you yet that my name's Johnny Palmer. It has been for a while, and this bloke's name is Graham Goodwin, sitting to my right, and we're looking forward to 2 solid days of sitting in a darkened room together.
That often happens, Johnny, and usually the action is dramatic, and that's not just about the room, it's about the track that's outside. Ligier European Series has doled out some of the best racing on this package for the last couple of race meetings, and that's not to say that the quality in the Michelin Le Mans Cup and the European Le Mans Series has not been good. It has, but it's been superb stuff for the Ligier European Series, and what we're hearing from race organisers is it's looking very positive for next season as well in terms of quality and numbers, but about to get underway.
In JSP4, Hayden Chance, Theo Mercouris have a championship lead of 25 points. This could be crucial because you get 25 for a race win. Ian Aguilera, though, starting from pole position and 5 cars ahead of the number 1 entry from Team Virage. Ico Segre just about in with a shout as well. There are 50 points on offer as we get, or about to get, the final heat of the season for the Ligier European Series underway at this fabulous Algarve International Circuit, the Big Dipper of a track on the south coast of Portugal, as now the bomb burst happens in the midfield and cars go from left to right to try and pick the ideal line into this tricky first corner, particularly when brakes are very cool, tyre temperature still being built upon as well. And now to the outside line, already losing a place. The two Virage cars exchange positions, and Ico Segre now on the outside of Brandon McCochen, I should say. And Segre, did he get ahead of? No, he didn't get ahead of one of the Virage cars. So Segre in the white nose, very tippy-toe stuff to the outside line, almost risking losing a place to Chutung Chu. But it is Ian Aguilera who leads, and now there are several spinners, including Matteo Pianazzola, who was leading the JS2Rs.
Yeah, including the LR Motorsport number 81 car of Manuel Quandam-Carlo. Not seeing Yuki Tanaka showing up on time. He did have yellow flags at turn 1, so whether or not he didn't make it through the grid, or whether or not he's had problems early in the race, we'll establish a little later. But lead of this race, Johnny Palmer, away they go. Hayden Chance, by the way, down in 7th place now. Work to do for the championship leaders.
So Eco Segre again attempting to get ahead of Brandon McCocken there at the right-hander, that precarious turn at 10 and 11, where it's like driving off the edge of a cliff, and downhill into 12, the high-speed approach. But when you're turning right through 11, actually you can't see the apex of turn 12 because it's too far beneath you. And that is the wonderful nature of this ribbon of asphalt around the Algarve International Circuit. So often the scene of the season finale, very, very, very wide for that second place car of Geronimo Berrio. That is in the realms of having to pay to get back in. I like that line. But now off onto the gravel track, and yeah, we've lost the first of the Virage cars, and those to benefit McCocken and Eco Segre. Crucial again for the championship. What on earth happened here, Graham?
Well, he got wide, didn't he? He got squirrely, but couldn't seem to recover that. Is he got a breakage? That looked as if he just could not steer the car.
Yeah.
Car drifted wide to the curb, but from there on in, it was in a straight line.
He lost the rear, and then as it snapped back into position, it was almost like he lost the front tyres then, and it just skittered its way wider and wider. And did he manage to complete that lap? He is showing with the 3rd sector time, so obviously he's scrabbled back through the gravel track and has rejoined. Yeah,
it cost him about 10 seconds. He's rejoined down in 13th place. Winner there, of course, was teammate Hayden Chance. Comes back up to 6th. There's yellow flags, and that's why, and damaged the rear of the Pegasus racing car and loses a chunk of carbon fibre at the rear of that JS P4.
Brief glimpse there of Clement Moreno, second in the JS2 Rs, and close enough to David Cosenel and Julien Schell in the championship. Now, from a long way back, a recovering Berrio caught the back of the, what did you say that car was?
That's the Pegasus car,
the
18. And
so Louis Stern.
And that car, by the way, had already got front damage on the number 18, so that's had another incident. So it is... And there you go, look, it's pretty significant damage to the front of that car.
It really is. Yeah, that looks significantly squished, the nose of Yuki Tanaka's car. So that explains why Tanaka's not currently on our timing screen. That's not the 18 car,
16
though.
car.
So we talked about the 18 car getting nerfed into the hairpin at turn 5 by a recovering Geronimo Berrio. I'll assume that Louis Stern has rejoined the race, and it's important for him to score championship points, trailing as he does by 36. But remember, 50 on the table, trailing David Cosenel and Julien Schell.
Yellows at turn 7 to recover, I'm sure, the 16 car. It was cars 81 and 16 at turn 5. But pretty clearly, Yuki Tanaka had already had a pretty major incident before that tag from the 81, and has actually not shown as having completed a sector. So has he got a timing problem?
No, I think the tag into turn 5 was on Louis Stern. So that was the Pegasus car, the 18, that was getting nerfed.
The safety car's been called.
We'll get a chance to revisit some of these moments now, but Stern has definitely been delayed.
It definitely wasn't Louis Stern, because he's in a JS2 R. That was a JS P4.
Oh, yes, of course. Very good point.
I think it was the 8. I'm sure that was Tanaka. So safety car's been called for the recovery of that car. And just watching here, well, whatever's going on here, that is car being passed under safety car flags. So there's going to be further issues here, Johnny. Bit messy start to this first of 2 races.
It has been.
Yuki Tanaka trying to get that car back.
So I'm still puzzled as to which car Tanaka, like you say, had not completed a lap. So I think did he have an incident on the formation lap which caused that damage on the front?
He was shown in the pits, even whilst he was out on circuit. The car was shown in the pits. So I think he'd possibly just left the pits, maybe did not join the grid at the start of the race, and then was immediately in trouble. There's Tanaka's car. You can see the damage to the left-hand side
as well, yeah. So that would rather show the scarring as a result of the collision with Jeronimo Berrio as well. Berrio recovering from his very wide moment coming out of turn 15. So the safety car will naturally bunch everybody back up again. This is the nightmare scenario for Ian Aguilera, who built himself a little bit of a lead.
He was something like 1.4, 1.5 seconds up at best here, but now that will come down to naught. It's effectively a restart. Hayden Chance gets another chance and is actually going to restart this race when we go back to green flag racing in 5th place. You see again, that's the nerf on the 16, but there is already there's already damage to the 16, but it's not the same damage. So is he?
And then he rode the curb, but that wouldn't have squished the front as badly as it is. So did he then receive contact whilst? Well, I thought almost he would have got a nose-to-nose contact, but he drove away from the scene actually very quickly. So what has he then hit? That's a mystery, and apologies for our confusion, and also me identifying a JS P4 as a 2R, because I was merely going on the numbers, thinking, well, if it's not 16, it must be 18. But Graham points out, no, Johnny, that's a completely different shape of car, which it is. And Louis Stern is doing okay as far as his championship is concerned. Remember, the 4 cars that are still potentially in with a shout of winning: David Cosenel and Julien Schell, of course, because they lead by 27 points over Clement Moreno, who is where in the order at the moment? Moreno, there are 2 Morenos, remember, in the race, and I'm now not seeing Moreno's name. So is he sharing this weekend in the 31 car? Oh, sorry, beg pardon, it's not Clement Moreno, it's Paul Trajani, that's why, in the Moreno colours for ANS Motorsport. So Clement Moreno, who arrived, or should have arrived here with 139 points, sitting this race meeting out. And out gets Yuki Tanaka from the damaged car, both front and rear, Pegasus number 16.
So end of this race for that car. So as things calm down, it'll take a little while to get that car on a flatbed and into a place of safety. Let's just take a look at where our title contenders currently sit in the order. Well, second place in the championship, with 25 points of a gap at the moment, is Ian Aguilera. He sits at the front of this field. Hayden Chance has had a bit of a up and down start to this race. Shares the Team Virage number 1 car with Teo Makuris, of course. He sits 5th, which is as good as it's been since the red lights went out for the championship leaders. So that conservative start to the race has not done much damage for their championship hopes. Eco Segre, meanwhile, sits 3rd. So all 3 of the JS P4 title contenders are still in pretty good shape here, Johnny. JS2R, meanwhile, David Cosenel and Julien Schell. Well, it is Julien Schell at the wheel of the championship leading car. He's sitting last at the moment in JS2R, but of course this is going to help to keep things on the island for him. Clement Moreno, meanwhile,
not in the race, not here.
Not here, of course.
And that's the thing that's been confusing me up until this point. But Paul Trajani is in the 31 car this weekend, so we can discount Moreno.
So basically, it comes down to, in numerical terms, in mathematical terms, it's Louis Stern is the other title contender. He needs big points, and for Cosenel and Schell to have a very bad weekend. But Louis Stern, on 130 points, are 36 points behind with 50 still to come. Watch the start of this race. I'm just trying to see whether or not I can see.
Well, Segre got ahead of, or almost ahead of the 32 car, and that was the battle for 3rd and 4th. There was maybe a touch, but looking further down the order to Yuki Tanaka,
he's definitely in there.
Yeah.
He is there. He is there. He's, you can see in the background coming down the hill. There's only one JS P4 in Pegasus Racing colours, and there he is, and he's getting a hit from the rear there. Well, that's a hit to another blue and white car from the number 16 car. That's what's caused the initial front damage. It's 2 Pegasus Racing cars coming together.
The other rather embarrassing thing for LR Motorsport is that their two cars, the yellow Iron Lynx by LR car and the orange and black, they got together at turn 5, so that was teammates inadvertently hitting each other. Now, heading over the curb.
That's what's done it. You can see it brake. As he come back onto the circuit, you saw the nose drop. So he's damaged the nose mounting over the curb. It's then failed as he's rejoined the track. So it's two separate, well, in fact, 3 separate incidents for Yuki Tanaka. It's a clash to the rear of another JS P4. That initially damaged the nose. There's then the hit from the rear, from the Virage car. And then as he recovered from that, came over the curbs to the inside. That's further damaged the nose section, which is then failed as he's rejoined the track.
Right. Well, that sausage curb is vicious on the inside of turn 5, not clearly designed to be driven over. It's meant to prevent you from shortcutting the corner, but in that case, Yuki Tanaka had very little option but to actually drive over it in his efforts to recover. And maybe, well, certainly the nose failed, maybe a part of the suspension failed with it as well.
I think the car that I'd misidentified as we've gone back to green flag racing now is Jacques Nicolet is in a blue and white car for M Racing. It's not a Pegasus car, but looks very much like it. And that was the car that took the hit to the rear from Yuki Tanaka.
Right. So we've eventually got to the bottom of everything, we think now, and back to racing for Ian Aguilera, who's already on the defensive down the slope and into turn 1. Turn 1, 2 and 3 coming very quick succession here. 2's sort of pretty much flat, but as soon as you've gone through the apex of 2, it's straight on the brakes. There's Paul Trajani's number 31 car dicing nicely with Marta Garcia for 2nd and 3rd in the JS2 R. So they're ultimately chasing down August Thurbo, who drives the 86 Le Doussard car this weekend with Sita Van Mert. Remember, Sita has driven in the past with Jacques Nicolet, but the 86 car in the Le Doussard colours again this weekend, and Sita will take over at about the halfway point. You have to pit somewhere between the 27-minute mark of the race and 34 minutes into the race distance, so a 7-minute pit window as Aguilera, McCochen, the Irishman, and Segre absolutely together at the top of the hill, arriving into turns 10 and 11 together.
Recovering a damaged LR Motorsport JS P4, trying to get onto terms with a couple of the JS2Rs here. They're in close contention. What part is Brendan McCochen going to have in this title decider? He's there putting in Ian Aguilera under pressure, keeping him honest as Hayden Chance continues to lap around in 5th place here, just trying to build race position and points to fend off what's undoubtedly going to be an attack in both these races from the principal title contender, Ian Aguilera.
The other fascinating dynamic is when we get to the pit stop window, because there are differences in times required in the pit lane. If you're 2 silvers versus 1 silver, there was a squirrely moment there, though, for the 2nd place car off McCochen. So now he's all of a sudden under pressure into turn 3 from Eco Segre, and now the door has become loose on the left-hand side of the car. So, and that's not the driving side of the 32 Ligier, so it's going to be even more difficult to get that shut. The wind's really not closing it, doing Brandon a favour there, so he won't be going through the air as efficiently as the 6 car in behind.
May well be closed. It might just have closed at that point. Don't think he can reach it from there. Pretty typically, Ligier racing prototypes have the driver seat on the right-hand side.
Yes.
Same with their LMP3 cars.
Well, as he pulled off an absolute blinder there and just steered quickly to the left or right, I can't think now which way it would have been, but snapped the car in order to just slam it remotely, because I'm amazed that, I think you're right, it is shut again.
Yeah, like a Japanese taxi door.
That's amazing. Right, okay, so it's now, let's hope it's not a dodgy catch, and therefore it's going to pose a problem later on in the race. The 32 car is a shared machine. Mikkel Garda Pedersen, the 16-year-old Danish driver, sharing with McCochen, so 2 silver-rated drivers in the 32 car for Team Virage, and he hanging on to 2nd position as they now come top speed through this tricky final corner, because well, it's a fairly open right-hander, but the ground beneath you is undulating massively, and then you pop up on the exit onto this plateau which forms the start-finish straight and also that level playing field for the pit lane area.
So Ian Aguilera now, better part of a second ahead of Brendan McLaughlin, trying to fend off a charging Eco Seagrave. Chun Chu is in a fine fourth position at the moment, ahead of title championship leader Hayden Chance. Ben Casely, though, is right behind Hayden Chance and looking for a way by the Nielsen racing car. We've got drive-through penalty coming for the car 66, causing that collision with Yuki Tanaka. So the team Virage number 66 car, Geronimo Berrio, is going to be coming through pit lane. So it's a topsy-turvy race at the moment. Messy start to this penultimate race of the season. The Dussab and Augustebo is in the number 86 car, leading JS2 R 10th overall from Paul Trajani. And in close contention, Marta Garcia making her return. Fine debut in the series at the Spa rounds, and in real contention there, Johnny, in the Iron Dames by M Racing car. That's the 1, 2, 3, and there are the 1, 2, 3 with the LR Motorsport JS P4 looking to make their way by the Iron Dames bright pink machine. So hunting in packs here. Aguilera, McLaughlin, Seagrave, 1, 2, 3. They're separated by under 2 seconds. Then there's a second and a half gap. Hayden Chance then with Chun Ching, and both of those men under pressure from Ben Casely in the Nielsen racing car. Geronimo Berrio about to lose touch with that group with a run down pit lane for contact early in the race. And that is a change. It's not, and then fully over the curbs and airborne there, Johnny, for the number 71 car.
Yeah, Chu Ting Chu will have felt that, particularly through the seating position, and Hayden Chance spots his opportunity to go around the outside, but still the overtake isn't quite done. In fact, the 71's going to still fend off the 7, and now here comes Ben Casely arriving on the scene, right on the tailpipes of Hayden Chance, and Hayden hasn't really made a lot of ground. He's timed as in 5th position. That could easily be 6th, though, if Ben Casely's able to pull off this overtake. Hayden not giving him a great deal of room on the exit of turn 5, and then if you have the left-hand side of the road, that should be advantage rewarded, and it is for Hayden Chance, but still stuck a little bit in that 5th position.
This is the initial move. Look at the second car here. Goes to the clips the apex. It is fully off the ground.
It's almost like he went, you know, from a very forward momentum, it just suddenly stopped and popped directly vertically into the air and then continued on. But that's a bumpy old approach into turn 1 for Chu Ting Chu and the Monza Garage car, and lost a place as a result. No, and then regained it, of course. So briefly, Hayden Chance was ahead, but then couldn't solidify it.
The radar operators at nearby Faro Airport will be confused by that blip just momentarily.
I'm sure.
It's a bogey.
Yes. Something alerting them on the radar and disappearing almost as quickly as it arrived. The 81 car, which is late on the brakes, is Manuel Quandam-Carlo. And that is one of the JS P4s out of position. Remember that the 2 LR Motorsport run cars found one another, as now Hayden Chance is on the inside but runs out of road on the outside line. This is a really good battle, actually, and the 2 cars are quick in different places of the racetrack. Now Ben Casely thinks maybe I can overtake the 2 of them in one fell swoop, but that didn't work either, so they're going to re-emerge out of turn 4 in the same order. But Chance again was briefly ahead, coming from a long way back, but approaching turn 1 from a much too shallow angle, and he couldn't get the turn-in required.
And of course can't retain that position in any case, having completed the move off track. All sorts of storylines here. 40 minutes still to go of this 60-minute race. 60 minutes more to come, of course, this afternoon. It's quite a short gap, a season record, I suspect, gap between races here, Johnny, with both races today. Car 86 now a drive-through penalty. That is our leader in JS2 R. August Turbo.
Interesting, right.
That is causing a collision at turn 5. That is going to hand the lead to Paul Trajani. Fastest lap of the race, meanwhile, goes to Ian Aguilera. He's pulling a gap, and it's over a second now from Brandon McColgan. ECO Segre still in contact, but this battle for 4th place is beginning to see that group drop away.
Now leaning on one another, the 86 car, which, as I've mentioned, is the, well, you've mentioned, August Turbo, under pressure here from the chasing Paul Trajani. And Turbo's car is looking a little weather-beaten with some damage on the front right. There's also some trailing, something trailing from the rear as well, the bodywork on the rear left. Remember, though, that the contact, I think, was the stuff that involved Matteo Pianazzola in the yellow JS2R that led on that first lap, and then all of a sudden it was spun around at turn 5.
And that's going to be the incident that's going to lead to a drive-through penalty. He's not taking it this time. 2 more laps before he must do that. And that's, by the way, bringing back into contention as this 3-car battle is the Iron Lynx car of Pianazzola. He's just 1.3 seconds back behind Martha Garcia, and whilst it is the Iron Dames and Iron Lynx brands on those cars run by different teams and no loyalties there whatsoever, that is going to be a full-on battle.
Oh, almost the lead change as Trajani got a very good run on the inside of turn 3, but because the track then turns left, the inside line was nabbed back again by Turbo. But Marta Garcia and indeed a recovering Matteo Pianazzola are very much with these two now, so it's a leading quartet at the sharp end of JS2R. I know we've had some contact already, but if these people now can keep it clean between now and the end of the race, this could be an absolutely cracking finish. We've still got 37 minutes of this race to enjoy and nothing to separate the top 4 places in JS2R. And in fact, now we're getting news that the 86 drive-through penalty has been cancelled.
Wow. So
they're going to look at, they obviously looked at that again. I have to say, I've only seen the end of the incident. I didn't really see the cause of it. So I was only proposing that the 86 might have been involved, and I'm sure it was in that kind of area. But August Turbo apparently back in the clear again now.
Chance this time to the outside and gets around Chunting Chu this time. Doesn't quite keep it on the island, but I think just about okay. This time, Trajani up the inside, almost makes it alongside the 86 car. It's a cracking battle, this, Johnny.
It is.
All 3 of these cars still, though, involved in this battle for 4th, and this has got championship implications as well.
Really a question of where on earth to look next. That's literally why we're bouncing between the 2 different fights. As Hayden Chance is now ahead of Chuting Cho. Ben Casely wanting to get into this as well. Pianazzola with a totally different line down the start-finish straight, but it will be the 86 car just about of Turbo who fends off Trajani, although they are still level pegging. And Marta Garcia now wants to place her car as down the inside goes Trajani to nab the race lead. And is Garcia going to be close enough? No, not quite. And even though this is Iron Dames versus Iron Lynx, they are from different preparatory companies or initiatives, if you like. So M Racing behind the pink car, that's Ivan Muller's team, as now on the inside the 86 is coming fighting back. Turbo again to the race lead.
This time Marta Garcia might have a better chance here. But maybe a bit of a touch at the exit of that corner. She's not quite close enough, but making another chance here. She's now trying to get the undercut. Cracking stuff with these 4.
So Pianazzola, who we know should have a very quick car, now though makes contact with Marta Garcia and she spins around and into the gravel, and the danger is she's going to get stuck in those stones as being completely, in my eyes, the innocent party there. Or from that angle, did she leave the door open, Graham?
Door was open. Was there room enough to get through it? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think that was pretty late from the yellow car.
There has to be some understanding that a car through that corner as you're going uphill is on the limit anyway, so a little tiny touch will result in a spin. That was turn 8.
We're going to get
turn 8.
I'm sure the 85 car is not out that gravel track.
Well, the yellows are still out, and now Casely's ahead of Chuting Cho. So Ben Casely up to 5th position, gets that move done before we have any sort of caution. They'll give Marta Garcia ample time to try and get out of the gravel, but I think the more she delicately tries the throttle, the more sadly those rear tyres are going to bury themselves.
That's the change. John Chu loses the place to Ben Casely and needed to make that move because, having been freed from that battle, Hayden Chance has put clear air between himself and the two cars behind. 4 becomes 3 for the JS2R battle. And he waits. Safety car is called for a second time, Johnny, and that will be for recovery to the track surface of the 85 car.
So there goes a 2.5 second advantage for Ian Aguilera, but also there goes something like 9 seconds that Hayden Chance was trailing Eco Segre by. There's Marta Garcia's car, which was very, very fast up until that point. But the sorry sight of the 85 not able to extract itself. So a Manitou or similar will be summoned to that scene on the exit of turn 8. But yes, Hayden Chance once more given a second lease of life, if you like, because he'd lost touch with Eco Segre.
There's the hit again. It's pretty far up the car. The door was open. Was it open enough there? He's going for the apex. Tough one to call.
I think on a qualification lap, that's absolutely the line from Marta Garcia, but she needed to be aware that maybe a bit more defensive work was necessary. However, if Pianazzola's going to go for a move like that, it needs to be almost more full-blooded to be fully alongside, and he wasn't fully alongside, hence the spin. So that is, I agree, you can see it very much from both sides. We have seen it from both sides, from the two different cameras, and actually I'm of a different opinion, possibly from each different viewpoint.
Which is an interesting call for the stewards, isn't it? I think we're into the pit lane window.
And there's no restriction with the safety car out. Unlike in the ELMS, where the first 3 laps of a safety car shut the pit lane, you can pit during this phase. And
just the position of the cars means that the JS2R leading pack, in fact, most of the JS2R field are on pit lane. We've so far seen the top 5 cars come in. Now the 6th, 29 car of Julien Schell, has made up 2 positions. One, of course, to Marta Garcia in the gravel, and another on track, having passed Louis Stern in the sister number 18 car. So they're making positions up in their pursuit of points. It really is a story here in terms of the championships at stake here, Johnny, about the 2 championship leading cars running conservative races and garnering as many points as they can without risk in this race.
Yeah.
And then trying to get the job done in this afternoon's second 60-minute encounter if it doesn't work here.
This should be a big advantage for Louis Stern, because he is a bronze driving on his own, and if you drive on your own and you're of that rating, you have to spend 117 seconds in the pit lane, whereas 10 seconds more for a silver-bronze combination, and that's Julien Schell and David Cosenel. So immediately Louis Stern should gain 10 seconds in this pit stop. However, that's negated when you're behind the safety car, isn't it? Because
well, absolutely.
When everybody comes out, they're all going to be bunched up again.
The good news for these cars, bottled up behind the safety car, is that there is no immediate sign of us going back to green with Marta Garcia still in the gravel. It'll be at least another lap behind the safety car. Away goes the 81 car from pit lane and the 66, so they're back into the race. Could throw cat amongst the pigeons the timing of the safety car, as we've now finally got the 85 car under tow. Well, here's the question, Johnny. We're going to go back to green with cars, significant cars still on pit lane. It could happen.
Will everybody get the chance to pit? Because if you're in Aguilera, you've not even come in yet and stuck behind the safety car.
Just about there now.
But yes, this sliding scale of the longest pit stop needing to be done by a solo silver driver, silver 5 seconds shorter, bronze silver a further 15 seconds, but all of these different times really don't matter when you're emerging to behind a safety car again.
Well, almost the entire JS P4 field, the top 8 cars now on pit lane, as the other 2, that did manage to make it onto pit lane just because of track position on the previous lap are on their way out. Interesting moments here, and it's about just being fault-free in pit lane, but also remembering those differences in pit stop times depending on the combination or the rating of the drivers. It's quite confusing. Best way to deal with it, have a listen into what we can pull from this and just watch and see, and we'll keep you posted whether or not the pit stop times that we're seeing posted on timing and scoring in the booth here match what the regulations say should be happening.
Those that have arrived in the pit lane in good positions, namely Aguilera and Segre, first and third, they will drop down purely because they're having to sit on pit road for longer than other cars. So places will be lost for both the 77 and the 6 cars, but not a huge amount of time. Pedro Moreno, who's actually served a drive-through penalty and now the pit stop that he needed to do, leads the race because that car came in ahead of everybody else and is still making its way round.
It's precisely what I thought might happen here, and it's now a matter of just when does the pit stop time expire. We are going to see the rest of these cars join the train, but in what order? Also through, because it was the other car that managed to pit, having effectively regained almost a lap, is the 81 LR Motorsport car. And this train of JS P4s is now going to have to catch and pass the JS2 R leaders.
The pit stop for the 66 car appears to be fine. It should have been 2 minutes 22. It was 2 minutes 24. Now there's some confusion though for the 32, or have they just put that car at a more appropriate angle?
What was Louis Stern supposed to do? Was that 2 minutes?
He is a bronze on his own, so that is 117 seconds. So 3 seconds short of being 2 minutes.
No, he's okay, 59.
Yeah.
So here they come, and this is the order they're going to rejoin in, and that's a really interesting potential battle here because it's Teo Makuris now aboard the car, and he's ahead of Ian Aguilera.
Yes. Well, again, we were expecting that to have happened because the #1 car involves 2 silver drivers, so they can take a pit stop that is 5 seconds quicker than Ian Aguilera's, but that's not a 5-second gap. So, mind you, of course, Hayden Chance came in quite a bit behind Aguilera.
Aguilera was on pit lane for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So that's 150 seconds.
That's fine, yeah.
And 148 seconds for the #1 car.
That's more than enough. In fact, they've gone 6 seconds longer than they might have done.
This is going to be some battle. 26 minutes to go. We are still under safety car. No immediate sign that we're going to be going back. The lights are still on pit straight, so it's going to be at least one more lap. Everybody will get the chance to rejoin this train, and then we're going to have something like 20 minutes of pure Ligier bonkers.
Well, there's been quite a lot of bonkers in this race already, and some of it not always positive. Some contact, some cars leaving the road as a result of contact or just mistakes early on in the race. But with the exception of Yuki Tanaka's car, which was sadly badly damaged and no longer running, that car is the only retirement to this point. Marta Garcia in the gravel, but has been recovered and is being shown on an outlap. So she has done her pit stop, 2 minutes 27, and is running again, but now is laps down. He's in the gravel at turn 8 for a couple of circuits for everybody else.
Yeah, Samantha Garcia has rejoined in 18th position. Just one retirement. That is the triple damaged number 16 Becker's racing car of Yuki Tanaka. 3 separate incidents befalling that car. Now, still the lights on the AMG GT safety car here. Comes around that iconic corner with the tower. Fantastic view from up there.
There's some conversations on the Pratt perch of Team Virage to make sure that everything's going to plan. Obviously, they now have a car that leads the race, so this has changed the scenario for them an awful lot. And the LR Motorsport prototype, the JS P4, that was hooked up with the yellow 60 car. After the 60 received contact from, we're not quite sure, it was a spin for Matteo Pianazzola at the time, but also involved in that incident the other LR car, the orange and black of Manuel Quandancalo. He's now handed it over to Simone Vullo-Jodi. Again, a debut in the championship.
So just to tell you what the order is at this stage, you can see with the on-screen graphics, it is those two cars that locked in to where, oh, that was almost a big miscalculation for one of the JS P4s at the back of the field. Wove one way as the car ahead wove the other and almost overtook. I think that might have been the Nielsen Racing car, but all is okay. 66 leads the race for Team Virage, Pedro Moreno, from Simone Vullo-Jodi. From LR Motorsport. Both those cars had early problems, but have looked into a lead. Safety car is coming in this lap. We've then got the top 7 JS2Rs. Again, they managed to pit at the start. We go back to green flag racing. It's headed by Sita Van Mert from Gregorio Bertoccio, Louis Stern, Noda Kuna, Paul Trajani, David Cosanel, Cindy Goudet. And then we get into the title battles for JS P4, and it's immediately a change to the lead. Bertoccio goes ahead of Sita Van Mert and leads the race in another car that's had its troubles so far, the number 60 car. Iron Links by LR Motorsport lead the race. Behind 32, 71, 58. Then we get into the two title contending cars, and Ian Aguilera's gone by Teo Makuris at the restart, but I think he's lost that place again. No, he's not. He's not. He's pushing forward here. That's the 32 car, not the one. So Aguilera is making a decisive run here.
I was researching one of the new drivers whose first name is actually Jody, so it's Jody Vullo. Somehow ended up on the entry list in completely the wrong order, Simone being his middle name. So Jody Vullo now having taken over that car, but everybody in a real mishmash now of the different categories. As to the outside, Ben Casely is trying to do battle with Ian Aguilera, and a couple of cars almost leaving the road immediately behind them. So it is Theo Makuris in the number 1 car, Ben Casely and Eco Segre not that far away either. There's the white nose of Eco Segre chasing Ben Casely and the Le Dusab liveried JS2R.
Cracking restart here for Ian Aguilera. He's made up a couple of places. He's up to 6th overall. And some of those cars he's been passing, of course, JS2Rs, but he's getting stuck in to the task of gathering as many points as he possibly can. So the key thing now is how much further up the order can he go? Car 60, by the way, our new leader, is the second leader at JS2R to be judged with a drive-through penalty, although the one for the 86 was later withdrawn. Side by side to the pit wall there.
Just a bit. Eco Segre in the number 6 car, and on his tail is Ben Casely. So is that a pass? Segre was timed to being ahead of Casely.
Segre's passed Casely in that order.
But here's Makuris on the scene as well. I caught up with both Ben Casely and Theo Makuris for a good 15 or 20 minutes yesterday. They were having a good crack between one another, so our mates off the track, but our stern competitors once that visor goes down. And Ben rather suggesting he wasn't going to do the potential championship winner any favours, but he's clearly not going to drive off the road to allow the number 1 car through, because they're from different teams. Virage, the yellow, orange and black, and ahead in the black and red and gold, that's the Nielsen Racing entry of Ben Casely.
Pedro Moreno leads, and by an increasing margin over Jody Vullo. Mikkel Garda Pedersen, not the same Mikkel Pedersen if you're a fan of ELMS and WC Racing. A much younger Pedersen. Yellow flags at turns 10 and 11. There's been an incident there, we'll get back to that one. Then Ian Aguilera, he's closing the gap to the leader, 8.6 seconds the gap now. Side by side, and contact.
And possibly a breakage, as now the LR car spins from 2nd position. That's Jody Vullo then, who makes an error at the top of the hill at turn 11. And I'm guessing now he's going to start to tumble down the order in the 81 car. We're waiting for them to come through the final split and to confirm that, and indeed whether Vulo has managed to rejoin. No, not yet. Still waiting for that car to cross the line. So Mikkelgarde Pedersen now up to second to make it a Virage 1-2. And maybe another Virage car is going to be able to outpace Ben Casely. He does. Theo Mercouris right underneath the rear wing and then into turn number 1, keeps it on the racetrack and gets the place.
So Mercouris makes up 2 vital places in his championship hunt. One gifted to him by the LR Motorsport car, the other one taken with the pass on Ben Casely as ahead. His title contender, Ian Aguilera, also profits from the LR Motorsport car's misfortune and puts in the fastest lap of the race, and what was a 9.7 second gap is now 7.5.
Inside the final 20 minutes of this race, and it's still got a lot to give because Pedro Moreno, yes, sitting there with a 7.3 second advantage, but is there scope for Ian Aguilera to try and reel in the 2 cars up ahead? There's been a pit stop for Paul Trajani, and now
it's the second place
car either makes a mistake, yes, all on his own, right in front of Ian Aguilera, though, who had to leap on the brakes to make sure he didn't T-bone the spinning 32 car, did just about get through, and now we're back to another side-by-side battle, literally door handle to door handle. On the inside is the 18 car and the 86 on the outside, so this is Louis Stern up against Sita Van Mert for 13th, 14th or 4th and 5th in class.
Well, it's all kicking off, isn't it? We have 18 minutes to go in this penultimate race of the Ligier European Series for 2024. And remember, race 2 is very early this afternoon here. So a radically different timetable this weekend to accommodate Michelin Le Mans Cup and European Le Mans Series races on Saturday.
I think you're forgetting that we normally have the Ligier races on the same day, but they are both Saturday races.
But they're usually bookending the day, they're not this early.
We have a morning and a sort of lunchtime race, but I haven't compared and contrasted this timetable, but they're certainly earlier in the weekend, as in they're both Friday.
Indeed. Rather
than Saturday. But yes, the turnaround possibly a little more tight this weekend, and if you've received damage in the first race, i.e. Yuki Tanaka's car, I mean, is that fixable between now and the start of the second race is the big question. So we got underway with 9 o'clock for this first one. It'll be a 1:30 start for the second race of the day. And was that a change?
Yeah, that's Mikkel Pedersen recovering after that spin, now back up to 6th and going by James Winslow, the number 71 car from Monza Garage, taking over that car, of course, in Chongqing Chu. Pedro Moreno, his gap to Ian Aguilera now under 7 seconds, but Theo Mercouris is now in 4th. So the big gain that can come in points comes with the difference between second and the win. Aguilera must win this race.
Yes. And the other thing that Mercouris has in his mind, I know this from our conversation yesterday, regardless of where anybody else finishes, if the number 1 car gets a 3rd and a 4th place in the 2 races, that's enough.
Yeah.
So even if Aguilera wins both races, they've done the maths and say a 4th and a 3rd will get them over the line. So they're in 4th at the moment. That's, in a sense, the first of their ideal results ticked off. They'll move to 176 points as a result, but Aguilera will be close enough, trailing by 12, if he's able to win, but at the moment he's on 157.
That's the 2 Pegasus Racing cars, isn't it? That was Louis Stern off the track and being taken for position by David Cosenel. So that's another team in pursuit of a title run this weekend, Johnny. The 29 car making a place up and up into 4th place now.
Yeah, and David Cosenel, along with Julien Schell, starting the weekend on 166 points. So that was an advantage of 27 over an absent Clement Moreno.
This is a significant battle. Theo Mercouris closing in on Nico Segre, the other car in mathematical contention, but needs wins. If Segre loses that place, it's a big step towards the title for the number 1 car. Ian Aguilera, meanwhile, 6.3 seconds, 6 seconds dead now as he closes in on the leader, but needs to make progress. It's under 15 minutes to go. There's some big potential battles in this last 15 minutes, Johnny.
And now what is Theo Mercouris' approach going to be, as he's got Eco Segre within touching distance, the Frenchman in the white and black car then, not quite as quick as the British driver in behind. There's the 77 of Ian Aguilera in second position, so not leading the race, trailing Pedro Moreno by 6 seconds. But each spot that the number 1 crew are able to gain here could be crucial for, well, not necessarily winning the championship in this race, because they'd have to finish ahead of Ian Aguilera. But here's Mercouris late on the brakes on the inside of Segre, who's out in the dirt and really struggled to get the car turned in. It was looking very skittish indeed, whereas the number 1 car much more stable visibly. And through turns 1, 2 and 3 it will go into third position.
Now have to talk with Theo Mercouris now putting in the fastest lap of the race about the next potential battle, and the next potential battle might be Theo Mercouris and Ian Aguilera, and that will put the title battle, if not to bed, it'll certainly tuck it in around the edges.
It will be a huge psychological blow, quite possibly for Ian Aguilera as well, to be overtaken, so he will be sticking the elbows out as much as possible.
Well, that's Theo Mercouris with a 3-second gap to close. Ian Aguilera, in pursuit of the win, has got a 5.8-second gap to close now.
Is there any chance of Aguilera catching Moreno, though? Because in this phase, he's marginally faster than the 66 car on the last lap around. Moreno, the Colombian, racing with Geronimo Berrio, fellow countryman, and it was Berrio's error early on in the race that it meant he went very, very wide at turn 15 and lost a great deal of time. They might even be leading this race by a more significant chunk than 5 seconds had that mistake not happened. But the lead between Mercouris and Segre is definitely starting to open up as Mercouris attempts to bridge the gap between Segre in the 6 car and the number 77 of Ian Aguilera. Aguilera's dream scenario will be to catch Pedro Moreno and then overtake the 66 car, but he's only got 12 minutes to do it, and I've got to say the timing screen rather suggests they're very equally matched. Here's Mikkel Garda Pedersen in the 32 Virage car, now running in 5th place, ahead of Ben Casely. And again, Ben has found some decent pace, but just can't match the top 5 at this stage. Jamie Winslow taking over the 71 car during the pit stop window, so Chuting Cho out of the Monza garage entry and Winslow in. And in JS2R, it is still Noé de Cunha who leads, along with his teammate Antoine Lupescu in the 50 car. And they came here mathematically still able to win the championship, but really hoping for David Cosenel, Julien Cher, Louis Stern all to get non-finishes, and for Lupescu and de Cunha to win both races. So very much an outside chance, but they're winning at the moment, so they can do nothing more.
Indeed, 10, 11 minutes to go. It's 5.2 seconds now. Pedro Moreno from Ian Aguilera, the number 66 car. I wouldn't say gifted, but certainly fortunate in the timing of that safety car, gaining the lead, being closed down by the 2nd place car in the championship, Ian Aguilera, who needs this win, and also could do with a little bit of misfortune coming the way of the 3rd place car, Theo Mercouris. They're trading at the moment fastest sectors, and it's the fastest lap of the race, and the gap now down to 4.7 seconds for Ian Aguilera, a 1:46.304. Edges a little further away from Theo Mercouris.
So gap coming down 1st to 2nd, and it's certainly coming down, well, here and there, 2nd to 3rd. Might there be an element of Theo Mercouris just really taking this 3rd place finish? I somehow doubt that. With still time on the clock, Mercouris will be pushing as hard as he can. Well, as hard as is right in the context. It's not as if the championship is on the line in this particular race. There's still a huge advantage in the back pocket for the #1 crew of Hayden Chance and current driver Theo Mercouris. If he can close in on Ian Aguilera, then he'll certainly do that. And then will there be a chance in the final minute or so for a last-ditch overtake? But the worst scenario possible is if the #1 car, in going for that overtake, then loses out, leaves the track, hits the barrier, and they don't get any points at all. So sometimes discretion the better part. Just sit there, take the third place points, and move nicely onto 179 and further out of the distance of Ian Aguilera's scope.
Just a note, by the way, a fine recovery drive after that spin underway from young Miguel Garda-Peterson, back up to 5th place and going very quickly indeed. His next target is going to be Eco Segre, 6 seconds back, but under 9 minutes to go.
Here's David Cosenel running in 4th position. This car, I make it, will go on to 178 points then with 4th.
Stern is on pit lane and I think he's out of this.
Okay, so this surely will confirm the championship. If they're able to continue on and finish in 4th, their nearest rival is Louis Stern, but he trailed by 36 points anyway. So as a bronze-silver combination, this is quite some feat if they can pull off the overall Drivers' Championship in JS2R for the Ligier European Series.
At the current level of pace from the top 3 cars, we could end up with a 3-car battle on the very last lap for the lead, with both championship contenders involved here.
Yeah.
Because Ian Aguilera is catching the leader, but Theo Mercouris has now found more pace and is catching the 2nd place car.
So a grandstand finish in JS P4 as quietly and conservatively David Cosenel and Julien Schell are set fair for the title in this year's Ligier European Series in the JS2 R category. And that's sadly because Louis Stern looking like he's not going to finish the race, therefore will get 0 points. Antoine Lupescu and Noé de Cunha are surely too far back. Well, they are too far back if the points that Cosenel and Schell are potentially going to score come their way. That was a slight error from the race leader, Pedro Moreno, so he's feeling the heat. 3.6 seconds, that was 5.5 only a couple of laps ago.
It's going to come down again here. There is the 2nd place car, 3.6 seconds across the line, but fastest lap of the race in pursuit of 2nd place from Theo Mercouris is a 1:45.808. That gap down to 2.1 seconds. So the gap 2nd to 3rd is coming down quicker than the lead gap.
Very late on the brakes there. Again, a recovering Jody Vullo. So remember the spin when Vullo was in 2nd position. Ahead on the road is Andre Vieira in the ASM Motorsport car. Vieira at his home race. And a silver solo driver. So he should know this place rather well. And at the moment he's fending off the Luca Riccitelli prepared car in behind, LR Motorsport. And a debut for Jody Vullo, sharing with another debutant last time at it, Mugello, Manuel Quondam Carlo. There's the #1 of Theo Mercouris. And has that gap come down again? Well, it was a fastest lap of the race last time around for Mercouris, a 1:45.8. As now there's an incident being investigated between Sita Van Mert and Louis Stern, which may well have put Louis Stern's car out of the race anyway. Well, they were side by side. I don't remember the collision as such, but that my memory is generally terrible in one of these hour-long races. So I'm sure we possibly did see that.
We did see Louis Stern off the track, remember, to the right side, to the left-hand side, which lost in the place initially to David Cosenel. And that car pitted soon afterwards. So had there been an incident that left the 18 car with damage, it'd be very unfortunate if that was the case. Meantime, 5 minutes to go now. The gap for the lead under 3 seconds. The gap for 2nd place under 2 seconds. And it's the 2nd and 3rd place cars that are championship contenders. Replay here of a big lock-up for the 44 car, the ASM Motorsport car of Andre Vieira.
And that's what resulted in the 81 car able to get ahead. So Jody Vulo now up to 8th position and ahead of Andre Vieira. 4.5 minutes to go. Theo Mercouris is getting larger in the mirrors at times. 1.9 seconds is the gap now to Ian Aguilera.
But the pendulum swinging the other way here. All of a sudden it's Aguilera making better progress against the leader. 4 minutes to go. And I would say that's this lap and 2 more, Johnny Palmer.
Yeah. So maybe the presence in the distance of the yellow-fronted car of Theo Mercouris is forcing Ian Aguilera to increase the pace a little more. I mean, he wants to do that anyway, to try and reel in Pedro Moreno and attempt an overtake. And he needs, well, certainly a lap, ideally 2, to work out where his car's a little faster. But that's still 2 seconds he needs to try and find. The
gaps now to the lead to second and third, pretty much equidistant. It's 2.075 seconds. Pedro Moreno has as an advantage on Ian Aguilera, and it's 2.005 to Theo Mercouris behind. But the reality in championship terms is, from Aguilera's point of view, this isn't good enough at this point. He has to win the race, and Mercouris can make no further progress if those championship hopes are going to be left alive. That's, I think that is the number 60 car putting. Getting by Gregorio Bertoccio, yes, by David Cosenel. That just drops a few points for our championship leaders. But as things stand, Johnny, that's not going to matter.
No. So, if things stay the same in the remaining 3 minutes, plus change, of course, because the checkered flag will wait for the leading car to cross the line once the clock has run down. A moment or two ago, before we get to that, Gregorio Bertoccio in the yellow Iron Lynx car to the inside of David Cosenel, as you just mentioned, and that place change will not affect the scope for the championship for Julian Schell and David Cosenel. They'll get to 176 points now, but that's way more than Louis Stern and the Le Pesca de Cunha duo can hope for, even with their race win potentially. They'll move to 142, which is too far away from the 176 now that Cosenel is on course for.
Oh, and that's trouble for the 66 car. That's the leader. That's the leader has spun. I was about to say that Ian Aguilera was in close contention. He wasn't close enough, I don't think, to have been in contact. No, he's lost it all by himself.
Catching Bertoccio.
Yeah.
Did he go for the inside line to try and lap the yellow car? It's all happened in front of the teammate, Theo Mercouris, but also slipping through and into the race lead is now Ian Aguilera. And we said how important it was for Aguilera to win the race. So you've got teammate to Theo Mercouris and Hayden Chance effectively stopping a point scoring finish, or 7 more points to Ian Aguilera, and that has been completely ruined. So no wonder the very straight faces from Virage on the pit wall. They've kissed goodbye to a potential victory, but there's also disadvantages now, the Mercouris and Chance car.
Because as things stand now, what this means is, if these positions stay the same, this is the final lap of the race, that the championship gap will close by 7 points.
So it'll be a difference of 18, I reckon, going into that final race.
So second place finish for Ian Aguilera. What about countback? Because that could get, if we get a non-finish in the final race for the championship leaders.
And a second place finish for Aguilera.
It's countback.
Yeah. And I feel like that will be Mercouris and Hayden Chance. I have to say I haven't quite got that far in my research, but we'll make sure we're on the numbers by 1:30 this afternoon. We'll deal with the end of the race. Graham will fire up the abacus and see whether we can get an answer to that. But it's the final lap, and Ian Aguilera must be thinking, where has all this luck all of a sudden come from? I started from pole. He's got a pole for later on today as well. Naturally, the race is going to ebb away slightly from him because the fact that he's a silver solo driver, so has to spend the longest amount of time in pit lane. And I'm not sure that pit stop went brilliantly well because it was so crowded in the pit lane, but he has eventually emerged to be the front runner, and on this final lap of the race through the final corner, race one of the final heat of the year will go to Ian Aguilera, and that is a dream finish, even though the Hayden Chance and Theo Mercouris car finish in second place. So the number 1 car will move to 182, the number 77 car will move to 164 in the championship, and that is a gap of 18 with still 1 race to go. Meanwhile, David Cosenel and Julien Schell win the JS2R part of the race. They win, sorry, they're not the part of the race, they win the championship with a 5th place finish, or did it in fact move to 6th? Yes, because Paul Drajani got ahead before the checkered flag as well, but it still does not matter because 172 points is enough to seal the title for David Cosenel and Julien Schell. 174, in fact, they will finish with, but with Louis Stern retiring and heading for the pit lane, Antoine Lupescu and Noé de Cunha, they desperately needed to win to keep their championships alive, but also hope for a disaster for Cosenel and Schell, and it's not been a disaster. They finish in 6th place, and that is plenty of points to take the title.
So it's still open in JS P4, but there are our championship leaders. So that's the championship leading car of David Cosenel. Delighted, I'm sure he is in the car, and I'm sure there's an ebullient Julien Schell in the pits from Pegasus Racing, a team that's been part of just about every step on the ladder in ACO Rules Racing in recent years. I can tell you, by the way, if we do get a scenario where it comes back to count back, it would go the way of the Virage Bear, and that counts back, by the way, as far back as 2nd places, because they would have the same number of race wins as Ian Aguilera. But if Aguilera finishes 2nd in the 2nd race and they do not finish, and that is the points difference, it would remarkably be Ian Aguilera's first 2nd place finish of the year, and they've had 3.
Okay.
So it would count back in that direction.
Yeah. So still the 77 car with an unlikely chance to take the title, but you never know. And Portimao has this this history of just sending the narrative in a total different angle that we just have not expected. So 1 more race to go, but Theo Mercouris and Hayden Chance cannot begin to start counting chickens at this point. And Ian Aguilera, well, he wanted to win that race. You don't get a point for pole, by the way. No, he's got 2 of them this weekend. So it's just the 25 for a race victory, and that's absolutely the best he could have hoped for.
Indeed, he'd be delighted with the race result. He'll be concerned by the fact the 2nd place car was the championship leader, but he's done all he could do. And a bit of help, to be honest with you. Was it 3 leaders of the race we saw spin out? No, it's a leader, 2 leaders and 1 2nd place car.
Yes, because the LR Motorsport car had a moment, 66. And who was the other leader?
32.
The 32 Team Virage car of
Pedersen.
Mikkel Bargaard Pedersen, yeah, after he'd taken over the 32 car. Yeah, bizarre. Nobody wanted to win that one, apart from Ian Aguilera.
Indeed. And he certainly did want to win it.
Kept out of trouble and rather allowed the ocean to part in front of him and drive through to 25 points.
Well, you'll be able to watch, remember, the absolute title decider later today. On what time, Johnny?
It's a 1:30 race start time. We will be on air at 1:25, therefore, for the formation lap, run through the grid and try and give you as many points permutations as possible. It's made slightly easier, though, because we now do have the provisional champions in the JS2Rs. But it's a win for Ian Aguilera after 29 laps. It gives him 25 points from his championship rivals, Theo Mercouris and Hayden Chance. Eco Segre out of the championship hunt now with that 3rd place finish. Then it's Mikkel Bargaard Pedersen and Brandon McCochen. Brandon with a decent debut. Well, both actually, although there was that spin, of course, for the 16-year-old. He will have learned massively for that race. Pedro Moreno also had a spin from the lead for Team Virage and finishes 5th. JS2Rs, it's won by Noé de Cunha and Antoine Lupescu ahead of Cindy Goudet, but the championship winners, David Cosenel and Julien Schell. Bright and early this morning, we got our first Ligier race of their final heat of the season on the way at the Algarve International Circuit, with the sun of the south of Portugal beating down onto the race circuit. This is always a favourite with the drivers wherever they come from around the world. We do have a Portuguese actually competing this weekend in Andre Vieira in the 44 ASM Motorsport car, but an early lead taken by the pole sitter Ian Aguilera. Then there was some carnage down at turn 5 with the LR Motorsport cars ending up colliding with one another, but it was as a result of the Pianezzola spin. He was nerfed into that spin, and around the car went, slapping the front of the sister LR prepared car. Then a spin as well after a touch from a recovering Virage car for Yuki Tanaka, and that did an awful lot of damage not only to the rear but to the front of the car as well, with its nose collapsing. Hopping over the curb, Chuting Cho, as he did battle with Hayden Chance in the opening half an hour, and he certainly would have felt that through the base of his spine as he landed onto the asphalt. And then Paul Trajani, who is racing the regular mount for Clement Moreno, who otherwise would have been in a championship fight this weekend, but Clement not in the Ligiers this weekend. Really good dice, 4 cars at the sharp end of JS2R, and sadly it would end in contact between the two teams, starting with Iron linked by LR into the rear of Iron Dames of Marta Garcia. She spun around like a top and sadly would be recovering from the gravel trap at turn 8. Side-by-side action at the restart, though, as they were all tangled up, both the JS2Rs and the JS P4s, and it took some sorting out as Ian Aguilera and new driver Thea Mercouris continued their fight from the earlier stint. Cindy Goudet, piloting the 53 car, was at the meat in the sandwich here between a couple of fellow JS2Rs. Then the spin for the 32 car, and out of the lead of the race would go that car for Team Virage. Weirdly, that would not be the only Team Virage car to spin from the lead. So that was Mikkel Garda Pedersen with a slight error. And then a very good fight between Thea Mercouris and Ico Segre, as Virage trying to be as secretive as possible there, looking at the numbers and not allowing the camera to get close enough. Gregorio Pitocco would pick off David Cosenel, but Cosenel, along with his teammate Julien Schell, on course for a title-winning drive in JS2R. And then the second Team Virage car that was leading the race, making a mistake all on its own and spinning from 25 points. That was Pedro Moreno, who had taken over from Geronimo Berrio. And it rather compromised the situation for the championship, because Ian Aguilera, competitors to Virage, ends up winning the race, whilst meanwhile David Cosenel and Julien Schell become the championship winners provisionally for Pegasus Racing. The celebrations begin on the pit wall for the Pro-Am combination. So yes, that point really should be stressed, that it's a Pro-Am duo, silver and bronze, Schell and Cosenel, who have outmatched fellow, or rather silver, and in some cases solo silver drivers. Consistency is so often the key then to this situation, as Cindy Goudet steps out of the all-purple car number 53.
Well, it's been another 60 minutes of great racing, high quality, a few fumbles. And we've got 60 more minutes to enjoy later to complete the season. Johnny Palmer.
Yeah, so we have champions for the JS2Rs, but who is going to win JS P4? Thea Mercouris and Hayden Chance with the firm advantage. But Ian Aguilera knows how to win around here. He's just done it, and if he can do it again, that will make the championship battle very interesting indeed, with pressure on with the British duo to try and finish with as many points as possible and take the title. The Algarve International Circuit has a history, though, of delivering spicy season finales. We've got loads of them this weekend, and the Ligiers will have theirs later this afternoon. Bye-bye.